Speaking of clowns, Kyrie Irving in the news. As Shams Charania reported earlier today that to no one's surprise, they are at an impasse with the Nets. Now, remember, he can opt out of his contract, become a free agent, sign with a new club. This should not surprise anybody at all. Do you guys remember what Sean Marks said at the end of the season? You guys remember that? Yeah, so this was a season in which, and again, I am the fair one here. Everyone wants to point out that he didn't get vaccinated, and there was the weird law in New York, which he knew about. Okay, he knew about. But Kyrie Irving, in addition to missing half the season, because based on rule, he could not play home games because he wouldn't get vaccinated. This is a guy who, remember, he had a knee surgery, which had his knee cleaned up in Boston. He comes over to the Nets, said he's a lifelong Nets fan growing up in New Jersey. This is the only team he wanted to play for. He ends up getting Kevin Durant to come with him. Then during his first season, remember, this is his first season with the Nets, he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, look, there's about 9 dudes. They won't be here anyway. Right? And the reason that the Nets were a popular team in the NBA with NBA players was those guys and the culture they had that Kyrie wanted to destroy because he didn't think they were good enough players. Though many of those players were shipped away, Kenny Atkinson was fired as coach. They decided to hire Steve Nash. When he was hired right before that first season, I shouldn't forget that they went into the bubble. Jacques Vaughn was the acting head coach. Kyrie did not go to the bubble, tried to talk others in the league out of going to the bubble, said, hey, we can start our own league. A healthy scratch, he decided to not play in Orlando, which could have, 1, helped them in the playoffs, 2, kept Jacques Vaughn employed as head coach. They don't re-up Jacques Vaughn as head coach, keep him on staff, hire Steve Nash, at which time he says, well, we don't need a head coach. It's a group effort, right? What do we need a head coach for? Then, he gets hurt in the playoffs last year when they're up 2-0 on the Milwaukee Bucks. They beat the Bucks by 40. He never plays again. They lose in Game 7. Fast forward to this year, and now he's not playing because he wouldn't get vaccinated. So it's not just the vaccination. But it's not even about the vaccination. It's about nothing he has done previous to this in his entire decade in the NBA or even his couple of years in Brooklyn leads you to believe he is about the Nets or about his teammates. So keep that in mind. This is what Sean Marks said in regards to Kyrie after the season.
Is the organization committed to Kyrie long term?
Yeah, look, I think that's something we've been discussing and we will continue to debrief on and discuss throughout this off season. And it's honestly not just Kyrie. I mean, you bring Kyrie up, but we have decisions to make on a variety of different free agents throughout our roster. We haven't had any of those discussions yet, so it'd be unfair for me to comment on how it looks with us and Kyrie, because to be quite frank, he has some decisions to make on his own, what he's going to do with his player option and so forth like that. But I think we know what we're looking for. We're looking for guys that want to come in here, be part of something bigger than themselves, play selfless, play team basketball, and be available. And that goes not only for Kyrie, but for everybody here.
Do any of those words, playing selfless, playing for something bigger than themselves, playing team basketball, being available, those are the 4 things. Do any of those feel like Kyrie Irving? I don't think he's terribly selfish as a player, but he's definitely not selfless. Is he available? No, he's hurt all the time. and it feels like he plays when he wants to play. And I said this at the time, and I mean it. Okay? It has nothing to do with practicing Islam. Okay? But celebrating Ramadan, which is a legitimate, massive holiday in the Muslim community, but celebrating Ramadan and choosing to fast during the playoffs. Okay, now it's not Ramadan if you go by the letter of the law. You cannot eat food. You cannot drink water during sunlight hours. Let me repeat that. You cannot eat food. You cannot drink water during sunlight hours. Does that sound like you're going to, if you're playing during Ramadan, that you're choosing to make something bigger than yourself? I guess your religion, but not your team. A blind man could have seen this one coming. A blind man. The question is, which team, where would he go? And the rumored two teams are the Lakers and the Knicks. What does that signify to me? When you're a guy that has a checkered past, when you're a guy that no one's sure if he wants to play, when you're a guy that's considered selfish in a selfless time, when you're a guy that has struggled to be available, you have to find somebody, you have to find a team that is desperate. Not everybody would take Kyrie, and he's an incredible talent. Maybe the most talented guard in the league. I could have a really, really comfortable discussion and saying, you know what? He's probably more talented than Steph Curry. But I want you to think about this. Okay, Steph Curry had won an NBA Finals, had won MVPs, 2 of them, and he did what only Tim Duncan has done before. He went out and recruited a player who, at the time, people thought was better than him. Remember, Tim Duncan did it with LaMarcus Aldridge. I'd come and take my spot. Steph Curry is so selfless, he was like, I want Kevin Durant. I will recruit somebody who's better than me, who could take as many or more shots than me, because it's about us, not about me. And it would be fair to say Kyrie did the same thing with the Brooklyn Nets, but it wasn't his team. It wasn't established. Have you ever heard Steph Curry talk about his teammates and saying he can't wait till there's more that come around, different ones that come around? Ever, never. So by my estimation, the reason that the Knicks and the Lakers are the two options presented are they're both teams that reek in desperation.